Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our Chapter 6 of the Book of Boba Fett spoiler reaction review discussion. This one is called From the Desert Comes a Stranger. Stranger Comes. So we're going to do a lot of spoiler talk, but I want to start off by saying something. I have read a lot of stuff and saw a lot of stuff online today about how good this episode was and how good the previous episode was and how trash the first 3 episodes were. And I want to say, from my point of view, this is some of the best world building Star Wars storytelling that we've gotten, period. And if you're one of those people who likes these episodes because there's a droid you recognize or a character from a TV show, an animation show, or a character from a book, and they show up in this show, and that's why you love this show, you're missing the point. Right. The show has been amazing on story world building, and if you're here and if you don't want to have the conversation about how good this show is, I appreciate it. I understand that you don't have to like it, but there's the door. Actually, the door is right there. So now that I've gotten that off my chest, because it's been bugging me for a week, let's start off by saying this is not what I thought we were going to get.
Good, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I had no idea that we were going to get like the Mandalorian story after Grogu left, and then the Grogu story after he left, and
yeah, I did. A lot of this episode, a lot of people are going to talk about the Luke and Grogu interaction.
Right.
They learned from Lucas, Film, Filoni, Favreau. Everybody learned from what happened at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian with Luke and how he looked. And they actually spent a lot of time in the making of the final episode talking about what steps they used to make Luke look like Luke. And It wasn't quite right. This episode, it was young Mark Hamill talking to Grogu. There was multiple times where a facial expression I have seen from Mark Hamill showed up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they used the same technology because Mark Hamill was there for the last episode in last season. I think it's interesting because he talks a lot more in this one, and so I'm interested to, like, did they have Mark Hamill do the dialogue and then kind of digitally make it more youthful?
That's what I thought that's why that thought process went through my head. So yeah.
But I mean, it looks good, but it's been 2 years since the last one.
3 years. And they hired the guy who does the deep fake stuff on YouTube. He did a deep fake of actually using Mark Hamill's face from other things, and then showing how he did it and made it look better than the season, that last episode of Mandalorian. Yeah. They hired him. Yeah. Like Lucasfilm, like, oh, you've got this. Come here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the process has changed from when they decided to use Mark Hamill and Luke from the Mandalorian to now. Like the processes of that whole thing. Yeah,
it's been a minute. I mean, every 6 months technology is doubling or whatever, So they've had some trial and error, and they've had some time, and I mean, we thought that Leia was okay, but
Tarkin.
Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One was amazing.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, and now you look at it and you're like, meh.
Yeah. Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
We were all dumbfounded when they had that scene, and now we're like, but the story's still good, so we'll watch it anyways. Do Tron 3, you bastards. The discussion between Grogu and Luke, all of that. And the idea of Dan going and checking on him and not being able to let go from his point of view, it is very interesting storytelling for this part of Star Wars right now. The Jedi Order is gone. The Empire's gone. Luke is trying to build. In fact, they're actually physically building the first school.
Right.
And Ahsoka is there, which we're going to get into that. But this idea that Luke gives Grogu a choice of you can go back and be with your friend, or you can train with me and be a Jedi,
right.
and here's Yoda's lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like that discussion is what the entire discussion about the Jedi Order is. You have to give up attachment because your feelings will get in the way, and if your feelings get in the way, you're going to go to the dark side.
Right.
And I am not a justice for the Jedi. They're a cult who kidnapped kids and brainwashed them into an order. I want to be a Jedi. I want to be able to move rocks and stuff, but I'm much more of Ahsoka's Wayseeker kind of view of the world. But Luke, this is another example of Luke not learning from the previous mistakes and telling Grogu that you have to make a choice. Give up everything and follow this crazy religion, or be with your friend. Oh, by the way, you're going to outlive him by a lot.
Right. I mean, there's nothing that he said that was wrong or untrue.
No.
And he does need to make the choice.
I guess for me that's the difference, is he's giving Grogu the choice instead of the Jedi going to a planet and taking Force sensitive kids and not giving them a choice.
Yeah, I mean that's much better.
Yeah.
And he has had, the experience of his father pretty recent in the rearview mirror. So he's still got that. He doesn't obviously learn from that mistake because then we get Kylo. So
right. Which is a Skywalker trait, but that's a different conversation.
Whiny and angry and all of it wrapped up into one.
That's true.
It is. But yeah, I mean, he's got to make the choice, and he even said when Ahsoka gave him the little chainmail, was adorable.
Right.
When she gave it to him, like right before I think she gave it to him, Luke even said, it's holding him back, or it's weighing on him or something. Yeah. So he can tell, but I mean, he does need, we look at Grogu as, a 1-year-old toddler or whatever.
Yeah.
He's 50.
Yeah.
And he's actually seen some shit, as we saw.
Yeah. I love that they showed that.
And I kind of wonder if that scene will, and maybe we'll never know, but kind of push him one way or the other, right?
Right.
Was he so affected by the fact that the Jedi couldn't even stand up to, to the troopers, to the stormtroopers, and they just died? And so he's like, there isn't anything to this, or the other side of, I'm going to avenge all those people that were killed. It could affect him, but he doesn't talk, so it's not like we're gonna know.
They made a point of him, like Luke, like saying, this is how Yoda talked. Do all the people from your planet talk like this?
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people who I don't want to know Grogu, Yoda's, Yaddles. I don't want to know. I want that to be the mystery of Star Wars, is that their race we just don't know.
Yeah.
And I want that to. So when he said that, I thought that we were going to get the flashback of him being on his home world with all of the other whatevers. And no, we got freaking Order 66 again. Because Filoni just loves throwing it.
Oh, by the way, Order 66. Don't forget.
Yeah. The clone troopers. Seeing it live action was very interesting. Even though in Revenge of the Sith, we get all of the different places where the Jedi or whatever to get the hallway and have multiple Jedi falling to the 501st. No, the 501st was Anakin's unit. The clone troopers themselves, but as a witness from Grogu's point of view in live action was very interesting.
Yeah.
When we saw it in Revenge of the Sith, we were outside observers to what was going on. This was, we were actually from Grogu's eyes what was going on.
Right.
And so your comment about how that's going to affect him and how he's made a point of cutting himself off from the Force, I think that's a story arc, or at least a conversation that we're going to have in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. Like, I'm here for it. I just like everything that Luke and Grogu. I want to rewatch this episode just for that stuff.
Yeah.
Because everything that Luke said was a version of what he learned from Yoda.
Yeah. Well, it was Dagobah. It was Dagobah all over again.
Yeah, but
him in the backpack and jumping and spinning around.
But from a different point. And I there's a clip going around on TikTok about Lucas saying that Star Wars is a tome poem, and it's a lot of the story. It rhymes with other parts of the story, and some people don't like that, and I understand that. That's not a criticism that I get grumpy about, because I think for me that's the fun of Star Wars, is that everything kind of rhymes with everything else.
Well, and that's life. We just got done watching Wheel of Time, right? Time is a wheel.
Yep.
Everything is bound to repeat itself. Just a matter of whether you're around to witness it, or
which is why I love Palpatine coming back, which is why I love that the prequels mirror the originals, which the sequels mirror the prequels and the sequel. Like that's,
people aren't learning from their mistakes, and so they're just doing it over and over and over again.
That's why I also like Luke's arc in the sequel trilogy, because he did not learn from his mistakes or the mistakes of others, which is why I brought up that it's important that he gave Grogu the choice.
Yeah.
And so this show is doing so much world building in Star Wars. I cannot stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's so good. We even got to Boba, Din, Cobb Vanth, Cad fucking Bane in live action.
So I want to say one more thing.
We have to talk about Ahsoka. So yeah.
Okay. Before we move away, I was at first when he showed up, and I was like, "This is a horrible idea."
When Din showed up
to see Grogu, I'm like, "This is a horrible idea." Everybody pretty much made it plain in the last season of Mandalorian that Mandalorian.
It gets very confusing.
That this is kind of a permanent thing. You're going to turn him over, and that's it. And now he shows up, and he's like, "I want to see him, but I want to see him, but I want to see him." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," it goes back to kind of what I was saying from the last episode, where he doesn't know where he fits in anymore.
Right.
And so he's like, well, okay, I'll just go back and get the kid, and we'll go back off and do our adventures again. But that door is also shut to him.
He's got a little compartment in his hot rod
for him and everything. Yeah. And so that's not working out. So now he's on Tatooine with Boba, and he goes to get Cobb and the town.
And Freetown. Which I'm glad they actually brought the Freetown thing up, because that's a big thing in the book. Is that they
And now maybe, like he was kind of like, hey, buddy, remember me?
Yeah.
And, he was very like, let's sit down and have a drink. Who are you?
Right. I really expected him to take off his helmet, but I think this is one of those points where, because they don't have Pedro full time, this is one of those times where it would have been awesome if he took his helmet off as a sign to Cobb that he's actually evolved as a person.
Yeah.
But That's a logistics thing right now.
Well, and I mean, I thought about that too. I was like, is he going to take his helmet off? But then he's still got the armorer
in his back gear.
You know, and so he's still working on that. Oh, I got to go
to
the pool,
the pools and the mines of Mandalore,
my sins and all of that. So
I have a diatribe about her. Freaking cult leaders.
She's a bad guy.
She's a bad guy. Let's talk about Ahsoka. I should have known with Filoni directing this episode that she was going to show up. It makes complete sense. But a lot of this discord for a long time within the annals of Star Wars fandom is the conversation of, did Ahsoka and Luke ever talk? Because they both exist in the universe, in the galaxy at the same time. They're both Force users, and there's not a ton of them around at this point in time in the world. Yep. There's Force users. There's not classically trained Jedi. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And so the conversation of, have they ever seen each other? Have they ever talked? Did Ahsoka help teach Luke some stuff? That whole conversation has been a really fun kind of what if conversation. We got a lot of answers and a few more questions tonight. When she showed up, I jumped up on my seat because that's not what I was. I was going to throw at the TV, but I spent a lot of money on that TV. So, but the idea that she is there when Luke is building the first building for the school, and she's the one who gives the advice to Luke about follow your instincts and how to handle Grogu, is heartbreakingly amazing to me.
Well, she's had Padawans before, right?
She never had a Padawan.
Okay.
She was a Padawan who was attached to Anakin to make Anakin better understand how to be a better Jedi.
Right.
And what she learned from him is that you just don't follow the rules. Pretty much what is what she learned. But she was the one who tried to save Anakin when Vader attacked Ezra and Kanan.
Anakin and Vader.
So Vader attacked Kanan and Ezra, and Ahsoka showed up and tried to save Anakin from Vader in that scene, in that whole sequence. So she was calling out to Anakin, and she didn't know that Vader was Anakin until he got his mask broke.
Okay. I'm like, but they're the same person.
Well, but that's
was trying to pull the Anakin back.
Out of Vader. Yes.
Okay.
And if you want some bawling out loud, crying, that scene, that whole fight scene, Maul is in there and he gets his ass kicked by Vader, and there's just like there's all kinds of stuff. But Ahsoka, the one person that she always, let me back up. Ahsoka's attachment to Anakin and then what the Jedi Council did to Ahsoka is part of the reason why she left.
Yeah, okay.
And she's still trained. She still can use the Force. She still has actually the Ahsoka book is about her like building new lightsabers and stuff. But that's part of it. But her attachment to Anakin is one of the reasons why she's no Jedi. But now she's standing on the beach with his son,
right,
trying to teach him a lesson that she learned from Anakin. Is so awesome, right. And is not something I expected.
And then you're like, okay, so Luke knows that Anakin was his father.
Yes.
But does he know that Ahsoka was
That's one of the questions that was not asked.
Right.
Yes.
Not answered.
Not answered. Yeah. It was asked, but not answered. And I
asked it right now.
It was yes. The only other thing that she did not do, she called him Master Luke when she was talking to Din. But she did not, when she went to leave and Luke said, am I going to see you again? She said, maybe, which is yes. But
It depends on what Filoni decides.
She's going to be, if they tell the story of the Academy, which is what I want, is the Luke's Academy, Jedi Academy. She's going to be that visiting professor that comes in every once in a while and teaches something new to the students. But she did not call him until next time Master Skywalker.
Yeah. And
that's the one thing that I actually wanted. From my heart, I wanted her to say Master Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so it just, I understand why they didn't do it. It doesn't make sense there, but I wanted her to say it because Anakin never became a master. He was only a knight.
Yeah.
And so that's just a kind of a closure for her, but also a closure on the Anakin, like,
yeah,
I wasn't able to become master what my son was and stuff.
And if it makes sense that she talks about him with outsiders that way.
Yes.
But if they know, Luke has to at least know some of her backstory, that why she's not a Jedi, even though she's trained and Force aware and all of that. He has to know at least some of that. So that would almost be her acknowledging the Jedi to him when
a little
she
bit
has forsaken it.
I think that's a legitimate, like, reasoning. Like,
yeah,
she
behind closed doors, I'm not going to refer to you as master because I don't acknowledge
right,
this
but she
religion.
At least respects the position
and
enough
so to outsiders. Yeah.
And I think that's fair. I want more of the two of them talking.
Yeah.
And I think at some point in time we will probably get that now that they've got figured out how to do Luke correctly. But I want more of that conversation because there's just so much there. There's so much that Luke can learn from her and that she can learn from Luke and just there's and I feel like we're going to get it. There might be multiple conversation flashback scenes in the Ahsoka series with it.
Right.
And I think that's where we're going to get. We have to talk about Cobb Vanth and Freetown and him kind of being the sheriff in the Old West town, telling the Pikes to you can run spice, just not through my town or my area or whatever.
Hit the road.
And him doing the and shooting down and then telling him. What we learned from that scene is that you kill everybody. He left one.
Yeah.
And he left they left the spice and they took the money and then he kicked the thing over and let the spice go, which is totally on character for him. But because of that, after Dan comes and says, "Hey, we need your help to protect the town, protect the planet from the Pikes," and him not saying yes, but I'm going to present it to the town and let them make the decision. Then we get Cad Bane. Now, I had seen some things that Cad Bane was going to be in this episode, and as much as I would like to sit here and say I expected it, he looks amazing. He looks like they took the animation and just molded it into clay on the real life. and having Cad Bane there has a really interesting what it means for Boba and what it means for other bounty hunters. And he's had the dent in the helmet that Boba has is from a duel that he had with Cad Bane where he won. There was going to be an episode of Clone Wars when I was on Disney XD or whatever it was back in the day, that they canceled, and they actually started the animation and they've shown it, and they have a Western draw like they had in this episode, and Cad hits him in the head, which is why we get the dent, and Boba hits Cad, but you don't see Cad die. He's hit, much like how Cobb Vanth was hit. We're not really sure if he's dead. He wasn't moving. But that same kind of feel to it.
Yeah. Well, and they were tending to him and not the deputy.
Who got shot 17 times in the chest.
So it kind of alludes to he was still alive, the deputy. They were like, you're dead.
Yeah.
We're not even going to bother. So that's going to make Din very mad.
It's gonna make Din mad. It's gonna Boba's gonna be very, and Finic Shan has a run in the final season of Clone Wars with Cad Bane, and she actually makes her name becomes known because of her duel. She outsmarts Cad Bane and outduels him, and because of that, her name becomes known, and that's why she becomes such a well-known bounty hunter in the galaxy. She also was going after Omega, and so the fan theories that the Bad Batch and Omega are coming, I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it at this point in time. Freaking Cad Bane showed up, and Luke. But he was hired by the Pikes to pretty much.
He was the Syndicate.
The Syndicate, yes, but they've been calling the Pikes the Syndicate on and off, but not consistently. They've made a point of saying the Pikes more often than not, and then they say the Syndicate in other places. So it almost feels like the Pikes are working for the Syndicate overall.
Right, but they're still their own thing.
They're answering to somebody else. But it's very interesting that they brought him in to tell this town of prospectors, water farmers, whatever, not to get in the fight. And it's very interesting that they use him, not a group of Pikes or the biker gang or whoever. Like
they send in the heavy muscle.
They send in the heavy muscle to end the conversation right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to, like you were saying, that's going to piss off Din.
Yeah.
It's going to make Fennec and Boba, hackles are already up for the two of them as it is.
Well, and it's also potentially going to draw the town who, they're not, like you said, they're not fighters. They're moisture farmers, but they can fight. And Din pointed that out, right? When they had was it a crate dragon?
The crate dragon, yeah.
They all got in there and they took care of it. So this might be just what they need, right, to push them over the edge to understand that this is a planet-wide issue, not just Mos Eisley and
it's very Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace. It's very Phantom Menace with the idea of Naboo, with the planet coming together against the droids, even though we have a differing
when
opinions.
They got pushed into it.
The Gungans and stuff like that, and Padme pulling the switcheroo and the $5 bet that was going on between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi. But it's showing that again that what this planet is for the Syndicate is a much bigger deal than what we know right now.
Yeah.
You don't bring somebody in of that level of muscle, even, and they made multiple comments in this episode about we have muscle, we have Black Chrysanthemum, we have Din, we have muscle, we need numbers.
We need numbers. Yeah.
And now the numbers, the Pikes have numbers, and now they brought in muscle. Right. So it's a match for match kind of thing that's going on.
Yeah, but we only have one episode left, right?
Right, and that's where that's actually where I was going to go next. Is the kind of I love what they are doing in this show.
Yeah,
I talked about it at the beginning of this review. I thought season 3 of The Mandalorian was the battle for Mandalore, the battle for the heart of Mandalore, because of the Darksaber and his connection with Din's connection with Bo-Katan and everything of the armor and Vizsla is doing and stuff like that, and kind of manipulating him one way and Bo-Katan telling him no, they're wackadoos and all that. This is very much leading to the criminal underworld war in season 3.
Yeah.
And
I'm just thinking maybe we're not going to get a resolution next episode.
I don't think so. I actually said in a TikTok last night as a kind of a prediction thing that we're going to get a big drop of something in this episode. And we did with Cad Bane and a cop getting killed, and Grogu like having to make a decision. But it felt like the next episode was going to be okay, all the pieces are on the board, and we come up to the fight, and then they cut the black, and we'll see you in December.
Or they drop another, like if it's Kira, right? And so they get everybody there. They have the big mothership, whatever.
Yeah.
They open the door, she walks out, and then that's it.
And then the music starts.
Yeah.
And I think I've been on the Kira train from jump, especially now that we know it's a syndicate, not just the Pikes.
Yeah.
You've hired Cad Bane, who is, directly involved with all the criminal underworld. Him even calling out to Cobb Vanth about how Boba was a bloodless, worked for the Empire or whatever.
Yeah.
He was taking jobs, but he changed. He made a point of changing.
Right.
But they are I cannot stress this enough. They've laid it out for a big criminal underworld story. And that's what they try to do in the movies, that's what they try to set up with Solo. If you're going to say, we're not going to do it in the movies, we're going to take long form discussion, you have to build the world of what this criminal underworld is.
Yeah.
And if you do it through The Mandalorian, which they did, and then they introduce it even more in season 2, but the Darksaber's involved, which brings the rest of the galaxy in outside of the Jedi. It feels like they had two stories that they wanted to tell, but they didn't fit within the confines of the show, The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And they have to. This is
or they were like, you know what we really need? We need Boba and Fennec. So
right.
How do we get them into this story so that we can continue the next season with whatever it is they're going to do? And you still have Grogu. Like, if he chooses the armor, what does that mean?
Right.
If he chooses the lightsaber, then he's just gone again.
Him and Luke will go off and train, and you'll have that whole.
And you'll see him again in the Ahsoka series or something.
Yeah,
but he'll just be off the map completely, and then
which I think you kind of have to. I think you kind of have to take all the Force users off the board. If you're going to tell the criminal underworld story, you kind of have to take them off the board.
I mean, he's still very young in his reawakening of his skills, because Luke pointed out that he was just remembering, he wasn't actually learning. So
yeah. I thought I knew where they were going to go with the show. The last 2 episodes has proven we don't know shit, which is fine.
Good.
It's fine. But I think I texted her today. I said, can we skip the rest of the day so we can go home and watch the Book of Boba Fett? When they announced the show, I was excited. Boba Fett was never one of my big Star Wars characters. Right.
Well, he just wasn't. He was in the background a couple of times.
And I got to appreciate him more through the Clone Wars and young Boba and him dealing with Arsing, close enough. And kind of that bounty hunting world, and him still trying to understand who he is without his father. So I got to appreciate him more there. But when he showed up in the show, when he showed up Mandalorian, I was like, oh, that's cool. It's cool to bring that character in and tie the universe together. Yep. And then they announced the show at the end of the Mandalorian, and I was excited, but it wasn't appointment watching for me.
Yeah.
And now, like, as each week has gone along, I can't. Like, next week, I want to stay up till midnight to watch the episode. Like, I have to know. I have to know, but I also have to allow myself to be open to different ideas that they are actually putting forth in this show, and I really
engaging in the story
we told that's being told. It was something that we talk about a lot around here, and I'm loving every minute of it. So
I love that they're tying up a lot of kind of loose ends with all of the different stories and stuff. They're kind of tying that up, answering a few questions, leaving some others hanging out there, bringing up new ones. But, it really, especially for me, I don't watch the cartoon stuff. So it very much feels like kind of there's this story over here and then over here, maybe around the same time, maybe not. Nobody knows, or I don't know anyway. Is this story over here? And then so this kind of, okay, this is all happening in this point in time because Luke is younger and, and Boba's there taking over from Jabba. But I'm like, Jenga, no, that's his dad. So it kind of, and it's all on Tatooine, and we know Tatooine. So I'm liking that.
Welcome to the Mandoverse. That's what we're going to call it from now on until somebody tells us differently from Lucasfilm. But it is the Mandoverse. Instead of the MCU, it's the Mandoverse, I'm here for all of it. So that is our thoughts. We could talk another 25 minutes about like stupid little details, like Grogu putting out his hand and watching Din fly off on his hot rod, So let us know what you thought of our reaction, review, and discussion of the latest episode, chapter 6 of the Book of Boba Fett. What are we talking about? In the comments down below, please be nice. That's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links are in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.